In this module, we're going to talk about creating summary statistics for groups, and then also how to merge databases together, data frames together. Now, these two skills are really important, especially if you do research on nested data, group data, or longitudinal data. Sometimes you'll need to compute different sorts of variables, and let me tell you what I mean by that. So let's think about the data set that I created. At this point, we have a lot of different variables because we had transformations. But if you'll remember, we have just 1,000 individuals, and then we have 200 groups, and they all have a group ID. And then these employees, think of them as employees, have a happiness score, a job satisfaction score, and a job stress score. So imagine that you're a researcher and you wanted to create some group level variables from this data set. So even though each of these members has his or her own happiness levels, you might want to know, like, what's the average happiness in a particular group, or for each group. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is first how to compute those scores, and then we're going to talk about how do you merge them back in. So here's what we're going to do first. This uses the Dippler package again, and one of the really interesting aspects of this package is this command here. It's known as a pipe. Okay, percentage sign greater than percentage sign. Now, this basically means and then. Okay, so do this line and then the next one. And you'll see that there are a number of these pipes. Here's my suggestion. Don't worry about the pipes, okay, for now. Just worry about the code. I've given you the code to do this, and what you'll need to do is just change the names of the data frames and also the names of the variables. That's all. You won't have to worry about where these pipes are or what they really mean. Just use the code. So here's what we're going to do. We have this RM data that I just showed you. We're going to create a new data set called sums. Very clever, because we're creating summary statistics, right? And what we want to say is we're going to select some of the data from RM data. You could put every variable if you wanted, but we're not going to. We're going to select group ID, okay, job satisfaction, and job stress. All right, now what we want to do is we want to group all of these variables and create these statistics by group ID. So for each group. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a number of summary statistics, such as the average job satisfaction, average job stress. Okay, so I'm showing you how to create a mean. You might be interested in the minimum job satisfaction in each group, or the maximum, or you might want to know the standard deviation. You can really create a number of different variables, and so I'm just giving you a handful so that you can start with this. And then finally, the count one is just n, and so this will give you a count of the individuals in each group. Now in this case, I set it up as having each group having 5 members, but that might not be the case in your data set. Probably is not the case. So in case you wanted to know the number, there you have it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run all of this. Highlight it, run, and you'll see we now have a new data set. And this data set makes sense. It has 200 observations, and it has 7 variables. So 1 observation per group. Let's click on it. Let's see. So we have, notice, you can compare and contrast here. And again, this is great. We have these different data sets open. We can just flip back and forth, something you can't really do in a lot of different data sets. Software packages. So you'll notice that even though there are, in this data set, 5 members of group 1, in this one, there's only 1. Okay, because we collapsed them all. We created means and standard deviations of each group. Now, what we need to do at this point is, okay, well, that's great, but we have a data set, remember, of 1,000, and now a data set of sums of 200. And so we need to get them together, right? And if we want to analyze data. So the last thing you can do here before we do that is this is just the command head, gives you the headings. Okay, and it'll show you every variable in the data set. It'll show you what type of variable it is, and it'll give you the first. It looks like 6 observations here. So it's really just, the very top of this. Okay, you can do it either way. So let's let's merge the summary statistics back into the real data set. And I'm going to show you how to do it in two different ways. The first one is using base R. All right, so base R, the command looks something like this. It's the merge command, okay? And we're going to say RM data is the first data frame, X, sums is the Y, okay? We're going to merge by group ID, and then we're going to make sure that it's true that in our final data set, it has to be in this first data set to be in the final data set. And we're going to call it A, okay? So we do this, right? And now A becomes 1,000 observations of 15 variables. So let's look at these first 5 observations here, this group ID, okay? So remember, every individual happiness score is different, but if we look at average job stress, see how they're the same. Minimum job satisfaction, they're the same. So now you can look at that variable in your analyses. And if you wanted to, you could look at the heading of A again, same type of issue, and then we can look at the summary of A. And it will give us all of the summary statistics if you're interested in that. Now the second way to do this is to use Dippler's left join command. And some people find this easier to do or to use. But if you look, we're going to create a new data frame B. We're going to use left join, which means use this left variable data frame here, RM data, sums, and by group ID. All right, and you highlight that, and you'll notice that A and B both have 1,000 observations and 15 variables. So together, what we've done now is we've learned how to create these group level variables, and we've also learned how to merge them back in. The merging is really important. Oftentimes we don't have just one data frame or one data set, we have multiple. So even if you're not creating these summary statistics or these group level statistics, you're still going to need to merge. So these are two different ways to do that merging, and hopefully this can help you as you deal with multiple data sets in your own research.